Ryan, thanks for joining me. What would you say has been the biggest, moment for you this year?
Well, certainly the beginning of March last year, being selected as leader of the party was a pretty momentous occasion for me, for us as a family, and I think a good moment for us as a party after a couple of tough elections, certainly more leadership races than anybody wanted, to be able to focus on the next couple of years, get ready for 2020, and really come together as a team. So that was a pretty big turning point for us.
The NDP raised quite a few issues this past fall. One that stuck out to me was the opioid and crystal meth issue in Saskatchewan. Why did you find it as something you wanted to focus on?
So some of that is coming from my own experience working as a family physician in the inner city and just seeing the levels of opioid addiction, the rising numbers of overdose deaths, as well as the transmission of HIV and hepatitis C that are connected. I also always make sure to mention what's going on with crystal meth, which is resulting in lots of people who might actually have been pretty stable in terms of their opioid addiction now having more troubles engaging in more risky behaviors, finding themselves involved in crime or winding up in the hospital with psychotic episodes, etc. So there's a lot of serious stuff going on in terms of what's happening with drugs in the province, which are, I would say, a manifestation or a symptom of some larger problems, the degree of inequality, the growth in poverty, and how that shows up in addictions. And what was really interesting, Danielle Chartier, we named her as a mental health and addictions critic. That's the first time we've had anyone in that specific role. And it was really interesting to see how many people were coming forward, seeking her out and saying, I've got a story to tell. My son died from an overdose. My family member wants addictions treatment and can't get any and is winding up on the street. And they were brave enough to come forward and tell their stories. And when you've got that kind of an outcry among people who are directly affected, we felt it was really important to be part of sharing that voice.
What does 2019 hold for the NDP?
Yeah, well, we were really happy with the way this last session went. We had a focus, as you mentioned, on health and mental health, on cuts to education, and on the PST on construction and the overall economic health of the province. We're going to obviously continue to talk about those core issues. We also saw and continue to see, unfortunately, a number of ways in which this government tends to eschew transparency. They have scandals arising and they don't want to look into them in a way that really gives the people of Saskatchewan clarity and answers on important problems. So I expect you'll see us continue, because those continue to be issues, focus on those, and we're going to also be turning the corner even more. We started to do that a little bit with announcing Renew Saskatchewan, with pushing for a $15 minimum wage, talking not just about what's wrong with the Sask party and our complaints with the failings of this government, but starting to put forth clearer solutions of what we'd like to see done. So you'll see more and more of that as we get closer to the next election, a clearer description of the vision of the NDP and the types of ideas we think would make a real difference.
So we'll be rolling out more of your platform little by little in the next year or so.
And certainly the Renew Saskatchewan, where we talked about a means of removing the cost barrier that prevents a lot of people from getting involved in putting solar panels up or energy efficient retrofits, by creating a program where they pay that back through their power bill instead of having to pay that upfront costs, is a really exciting model of how we could be leaders in the transition to renewable energy, creating new jobs, as well as reducing people's power bills. That Renew Saskatchewan is one type of thing that we're going to be rolling out more and more over the coming months.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, thanks a lot.